Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Line Change, the NHL betting podcast from the Action Network. My name is Michael Leboff, and joining me for this, our first episode of the new regular season, where we get to look ahead to a couple games over the upcoming weekend. That's Friday, October the 4th, and Saturday, October the 5th, live from Prague in Czechia. It'll be the Sabres and Devils. They're playing on a back-to-back Friday afternoon, and then again on Saturday afternoon. Then the North American season kicks off on Tuesday, October the 8th. So we will be back for our regular 3 times a week cadence, recording on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays to preview Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for the rest of the season and go from there. But in the immediate term, here we are to talk about the Devils and Sabres. They are meeting in Prague. I don't really think there's too much you need to look into in terms of like, oh, this team's home. The Sabres are technically the home team the first game. The Devils are the home team the second game. I don't really think there's too much you need to look into there. Generally, as we talk right now, the odds are almost the same for both games. I'm seeing Devils minus 162 for Friday afternoon. Sabres coming back plus 134. The over-under is 6.5. Nick, is there anything at a high level that you like here, whether side or total, as we go into Prague?
Yeah, I think I coming out and I like the Sabres in both games here for a couple of reasons. Um, and I'm pumped that we get these because it's pretty sweet to have two standalone games to kick off the season. Two teams that I think are going to be really fun to watch this season. So just as kind of a baseline here, I think the start of the season, if you look back, like teams are pretty all over the place. I think in general, that case is going to make the point to take the Sabres at plus 134 right now. I think that everything surrounding what's gone on with them this preseason sounds pretty positive. I'm kind of neutral on them over the entirety of the season relative to their markets, but I think they are a team that could boom. I like the way everything's trending. So I think you look at what this offense can offer in a game at this kind of a number, neutral field or neutral arena, as you said. I think plus 134 is a good number. I like the way everything's shaking out with them. I think that the second line, it looks like Benson's going to lock down that role. I was a little scared that they'd end up, trying to work in Jason Zucker with Cousins and Quinn. I know we're both really high on Jack Quinn this season, and I'm really high on Tage Thompson bouncing back. Still love JJ Paterka. So just overall, it might sound a little surprising because I think people who've really followed my work know that I'm as high as the market on the Devils. But I think when we're talking about the first game of the season and you're getting this kind of a number on a Sabres team that has pretty high upside this year, I think I'd like to take my chances on Buffalo's offense clicking, causing some problems here. So, yeah, I think it should be a really fun series. And the first pick I like is just Buffalo in both games and hope to get a split at worst and see how it goes. And then, yeah, like we talked about, Allen will start game 2. You'd have to assume they wouldn't go back to back with Markstrom right out of the gates here. And for that reason, I think that game could end up being a little closer in favor of the Sabres here, too. So I could end up even bigger on that one, depending on how the first game looks.
I am 100% with you. I like Buffalo in game 1. I'll likely bet them again in game 2. And I don't really have much more to add, right? I think that this team, just top to bottom, is going to be competent. I think you could also look into the Lindy Ruff factor of he's coaching against a team that just let him go, obviously, uh, as another reason for the Sabres to kind of just come into this with more gusto if you're into that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think Buffalo's defensive improvement last year was notable, even though their offense took a step back, because we are expecting this offense to be much better than it was last year, especially on the power play. And if they can maintain even close to the level of defensive play that they put up last year and the offense takes a step forward, they become a handful. So I do like Buffalo in this one. Looking at props, as you noted about Jack Quinn before, I was deciding between Quinn and Benson as like the player I really want to target here. I think that second line is going to be a lot of fun to watch with Cousins and then Benson and Quinn flanking him. I landed on Quinn just because I think I want to be there before it hits, and I do think that this player is going to like end up being a really popular player prop guy throughout the season in anytime markets and such. And the secret's always out on all these players. I know we always love to be like, I don't think people notice yet, but it will take some time for the prices to come down. So I want to be there when he's being offered at decent prices for team that I expect to score more than it did last year. He's plus 350 anytime goal scorer. He's 23-1 first goal scorer, and he's also 36-1 to score twice. Um, I'll I'll be in on. I'll probably like just sprinkle one unit on across like the Jack Quinn game markets. But I'll definitely be on the first and anytime goal scorer markets for Jack Quinn.
Yeah, I agree. And part of the reason that I think, as I go into my prop here, that I like the Sabres offense can be a lot better, that a lot of people are going to point to. Power play ranked 29th last year. Part of that was obviously the coaching. They have a new power play look with Seth Appert running things. And Tage Thompson just wasn't ripping it the way that we've seen the 2 years previous last season as he fought through a wrist injury. So I think he can really help them bounce back on the power play. Hopefully, they'll have a better look altogether. So I like Thompson. I think the Sabres offense should be pretty strong this year. I'm looking for them to bounce back there. And the one number that I did find on FanDuel that I thought was a fun, unique prop, Thompson is plus 550 to score a single goal in each game, which is actually a fair number given that they're pricing him at plus 145 to score in the first game. So I actually think that's a pretty fun one. You can just try to target Tage coming in hot here in what will hopefully be somewhat high scoring games, I think. So I thought that was fun. And obviously, if I like that, I don't mind him to score just in game one. But I feel like if you see him scoring game one, he has a solid game. And then the next night, Allen's in. Plus, and on top of the fact that plus 550 is actually already slightly better than just, it looks like it would be rolling the number over yourself, which is kind of a rarity. A lot of times those markets are actually worse if you price it out. So yeah, I think that that's a fun bet backing Thompson to score in both games at plus 550.
Quick same game parlay I just put together, kind of using how we're both seeing at least the first game. Tage Thompson to record 5+ shots. The Sabres on the alternate line -1.5, and Jack Quinn is an anytime goal scorer. You're looking at like 34-1. So I'm not saying you have to build it exactly that way, but that's kind of the way we're going. And look, it's one game, standalone game, first game of the season. It's not a bad. No one's going to judge you for trying to have a little bit of fun and get your hockey season off to a good start. So that's generally how I'm feeling. If on the Devil side, I'll probably play a first goal scorer on in New Jersey too, just so when the Devils do score first and ruin all our bets, I still have a chance to leave this game a little bit happy. The player I'm probably going, I'm deciding between two, and maybe I'll hear you out on and I can get pushed one direction or the other. Dougie Hamilton is one of them. I like Dougie for a bounce back year. I think we talked a little bit. I've heard like Jay Kahn during our award show, and then as he was doing his radio show with Boomer Gordon on NHL Network Radio, talking about Dougie being like a guy who could probably outrun his 50-1, 75-1 odds in the Norris. I just think he missed most of last year. He's going to run a power play with a ton of great puck movers. He is one of them, of course. He's going to be interesting in anytime goal or first goal scorer market. So he's 4-1 as an anytime goal scorer, and he is coming in at 25-1 to be the first one. And the one long shot that I am maybe a little out of my depth but for putting up, but I just like this player a lot is Paul Cotter. He's 35-1 first goal scorer. He's just a little gnat in and around the net, so I never have issues betting players like that who are going to be around the blue paint at long numbers. So is there any Devil at all that is interesting you in like across these markets, or that you can be kind of pushed into?
I don't mind Dougie. I'm really high on him this year. We noted in fantasy, I know we don't get that many fantasy listeners, but his ADP is like 68. I think that's pretty, I would be reaching to get him above that. I think this guy has the potential to finish right there at the top of the league. So I like Hamilton to score. And then the other one that I'll throw out, just again, pretty light on the Devils here. I think a lot of their top players are pretty juiced, but I like, you can bet on Bet365 Cousins and Jack Quinn each to go over half a point at plus 350. I think that's a pretty good bet. That's really correlated. And I think, as we've touched on, I think that second line could come out of the gates pretty hot here. So that's another one I like there.
Okay, that's really the global series. Unless do you have anything you want to add about game two? I know you said that you think that the odds will be a little tighter I likely will just be right back in on the Sabres and looking. If Jack Quinn scores, maybe then I'll be on Benson the next day. But if he doesn't, I'll probably just be right back on Jack Quinn's stuff again.
Yeah, I mean, you could just come out with smaller bet on both right out of the gates, and I
Yeah.
can just imagine how this will go for you. But I yeah, like I said, I think chances are I'll be on the Sabres in game two, um, especially. And I think if you're going to do that, probably people will piece together that the Devils' goaltending edge will be minimalized in the second matchup, so you'd probably be seeing worse numbers. So yeah, I'm keeping my eye on Buffalo in game two.
Okay, and before we wrap this up, there we did 3 preview episodes. We looked at the Eastern Conference, we looked at the Western Conference with Tim Kalinowski, and then we looked at the awards markets with Jake Hahn. And since we recorded those episodes, some things have changed, injuries, etc. And also, there have been other markets that have been posted. I think the one that has caught my eye the most is the rookie leaders. You can get at DraftKings right now, rookie goals leader or rookie points leader. And I do want to touch on this a little bit, but I will let you go first for rookie goals because you have someone towards the top that you like.
Yeah, I like Cutter Gauthier to lead the league in rookie goals. I think that he is the best in terms of goal scoring. He looks pretty locked into a top six role in some power play minutes. So I love Michkov, but I think that his goal scoring upside's a little closer than that number suggests. And then Celebrini being injured, we'll see how serious that is. But the odds don't appear to be accounting for that enough yet. So I think that we're getting a pretty good number on the third favorite here with Cutter and a Ducks team that we've been really high on.
Yeah, these numbers fluctuate a little bit, but the one guy I am looking at in the goal market is Josh Doan. He's 35 to 1 at DraftKings. I think there were some 50s floating around. And so as this market kind of pops up and you shop around, look for the longest number, but I still even think at 35, it's a fun one in a market where it's kind of hard to find like really good value, but a fun punt for me would be Doan. I am just kind of high on him generally. And in the rookie points, like it's really hard to argue against the two guys at the top, Michkov and Celebrini. So not too much there. Um, the last thing I do want to talk about actually is the Bruins, because it does look like this Jeremy Swayman situation could fight its way into the season. It looks it's getting uglier by the day. And I know that a lot of people, and rightfully so, would scoff at the Junis Corpusalo 300 to 1 to win the Vezina. But goalie wins markets are out there, and a lot of places have taken him off the board, which I think is worth monitoring, because if he pops up in the triple digits to lead the league in goalie wins, I think it's worth a little bit of a punt. But that being said, Nick, anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here and head to, or the league heads to Prague for the first 2 games of the season?
No, not really. I mean, yeah, that news sounds good given like I'm on Sabre or Bruins to miss playoffs, so I'm watching it and I'm like, all right, let's make this a full blown disaster. And I've been kind of anti Bruins all year. I think that their offensive core is really just not much better than a ton of teams in the division. So I have actually kind of already on them to come down. And then the other one that we gave out a lot of Senators stuff, or I gave out them to make. And if you hadn't seen last night's preseason game was a full blown disaster, given that 3 of their
Ugh.
4 or 5 best players all left with injury in Kachuk, Stutzla, and Shabbat. So
I don't mean to
if
laugh. I'm
you
sorry.
happen to, yeah, if you happen to have an ability to like hang tight, or you're listening to this and you happen to not have listened to those or anything like that, I would just say, don't add any Senators positions right now. See how those things. I mean, teams are always going to play it safe, so they could all just be minor. They could all play opening night, but definitely no point in adding those when you're looking at what could be a disastrous situation.
Yeah. I just kind of couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, what the hell's going on in this game? Um,
This
I wasn't
preseason
watching just
needs
like
to end.
the tweeters. Yep. I'm with
Needs
you. I
to
think
end now.
all preseasons need to end. All right. That does it here. Like I said, we kind of gave out we like the Sabres. Like we said, I should say, we like the Sabres. For me, I'm going to be all in on Jack Quinn in that first game. Nick likes some Tage Thompson stuff. And I'm also going to play that same game parlay with Thompson 5+ shots, Sabres -1.5, and Quinn anytime goal scorer for a lofty price. Hopefully, we get the season started off pretty well here, Nick. We will be back again on Tuesday morning or Monday afternoon, depending on just the back end stuff, to preview the 3-game slate for the North American opening night, which starts early that afternoon, with St. Louis at like 4:45 p.m. Eastern time, and then back for the Wednesday games that week and the Thursday games. And that is what you can expect from us for the most part this season. So for Nick, I'm Michael. Thank you to our producers, David and Noah. Best of luck this weekend, getting off to a good start.